it's me, Matthew, aka Wanderlust Life. I wanted to give a quick update on, or review, of what's been done on Bruce, my 2025 Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250 special, and some of the upgrades I've done since the last video, and a bunch of upgrades I've yet to do. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this around and get my ugly bug off here, my crazy hair. So I'll just start right up at the front, a bit of a review. So, got the bash plate, installed. That was, it's again, it's a Harley-Davidson OEM. Well, I guess you could call it OEM. It's a Harley-Davidson bash plate or skid plate. I have that installed. Going around to the other side, I've installed a jump cable going to the battery for the NOCO boost, for in case in the event I need to jump start. I just have that routed in through the skid plate to the battery itself. Didn't want it just dangling all over the place, didn't want to fish it out, so I just zip tied it. And in the event I needed to use it, just cut the zip tie, put new fresh zip ties on, and then be good to go. Hopefully, shouldn't have to use it. It's funny, on the old bike Dexter, the 2005 Harley-Davidson Ultra Classic, had multiple instances where I had to get a jump start. That was specifically on the USA South trip. And since then, ever since I started carrying a booster, I've never needed one. But you never know. If I didn't have it, I would need it. Say, going up towards the top or front of the bike here, top, I did install a quad lock. Yet to be installed on here is the wireless charging header that will be wired into the bike's ignition circuit, so it'll turn on when the bike's on and off when the bike's off. That's upcoming, but for right now I have just a regular quad lock, and that works pretty well. Tank bag, I believe that was on here last time. Not 100. I think that was the first thing I put on the bike. I've used it. It's come in very handy, and lots of odds and ends in here. Comb, which come when it gets hotter here in Georgia, which is not too far. I'll be bald again, but in the winter months here, I tend to shag out. Let's see. Anything else on this side of the bike other than the panniers? The folding lever, we reviewed that already. That's been working well. I still only have about 400 miles on the bike, so I still haven't been able to put the kind of miles on for breaking in that I would like to. It just got cold, and I've been super busy, so I really haven't had time to do all that. Let's see, nothing else really upgraded on this side other than the pannier racks and the panniers themselves. Those are installed. Still got to get my license plate. Haven't had time to even get down to get my license plate. Every other state I've lived in, they just mail it to you. Here in Georgia, I got to go down there and get it. And I haven't had time to do that during the weekdays. Tail lights, I already did the upgrade kit with that where it flashes and I can modify that. I've showed a video on that already. Going on this side of Bruce, this is a cover guard for the rear brake reservoir, master cylinder, but that's to protect that in case of a fall, and so it doesn't shatter and I have no rear brakes. I got the muffler guard that's installed. Oh, there it is. So again, in the event the bike tips over, that'll give some protection to the muffler. Granted, the panniers might do some of that as well. And that's about it for installed upgrades on Bruce itself. Now, things I purchased and ready to be installed, it's a list. This is going to be replaced. Nothing really wrong with it. This is the OEM. It's plastic, but I do have the metal one, and it's a little bit taller. That will be replaced. Let's see, I'm trying to remember what else. Well, you know what? I'll just go around. So I do have the Harley-Davidson auxiliary lights that will install down here. That will be happening soon. Oh, I did forget. I got the radiator shield installed as well. Again, that's also Harley-Davidson. Okay, so now moving on to parts that are purchased but not yet installed. It's a lot of stuff. So I got the bark busters. That's going to be replacing the cheap plastic. I guess you'd call them brush guards, and I ain't really a brush guard hardly because they're so flimsy. I mean, I guess it's better than nothing. But yeah, I'm not a fan of it. And in the event I drop the bike somewhere, I don't want my levers snapped off. That happened with Dexter. So I got the bark busters. This is the kit specifically for the Harley-Davidson Pan America. And if you're not familiar with the bark busters, which I'm pretty sure everybody almost is, it's basically an aluminum bar that goes up and around. One end connects right here, goes up and around, and bolts in back here, and it provides a solid surface for the motorcycle to fall on. And then the plastic part, which is a hard plastic, this is just kind of protect your hands from, brush and wind and things like that. In my case, it'll be 90% or 99% wind. I won't be taking this like on trail riding or anything crazy like that. Gravel roads, some fire roads, but nothing too crazy. Okay, next on parts to be installed, I have R-Link security monitoring system. It plugs into the security system on the bike, so it's plug and play. And what this will do, it monitors the motorcycle via GPS and cellular. So anytime the bike is tipped up, moves, or anything like that, it'll alert me on the phone. I'll have GPS tracking on, so I'll know where the bike is. And then, of course, it feeds me some information about battery levels, fuel level, things of that nature on the motorcycle itself. And these little wrapped up packages here, there's a few of them. These packages, I bought some riser kits, some A1 risers. I'm going to replace the risers here. Pretty simple to install from what I can tell. Basically pop off the bolts here, some bolts underneath. Well, I got to take out the fairing and all that, which I have to do for some other upgrades. Basically, take that off, put this on a towel, put the handlebars here, put in the new risers, reinstall it, and it's going to raise it up a little bit and back a little bit, just a little bit, just to make it a little more comfortable for myself, again, because I'm going to be doing majority paved riding. So there's that. I do have some adventure highway pegs they're going to be installed. Those are going to be going right on this bar assembly here. Some highway pegs for very long distance highway riding, just so I can stretch out my legs occasionally. Yes, I will be standing up as well because I can do that on the bike, but if I'm doing 80 miles an hour or so, I'd rather just stretch out my legs. Things have been sitting here forever and a minute. I have a Tour Tech frame, anti-theft frame that goes around this display. The main purpose of that, I wasn't really too worried about someone stealing this, but the main purpose of that is another component that installs on top of that, which is going to be my GPS mount bar that goes right here, and it's installed in part of the frame that goes around here from Tour Tech. And then my Garmin will install right here, which that's another project I have to do. Another project, I have a Tour Tech headlight protector that's going to be going on here. I do have an anti-theft kit for the fairing from Tour Tech that's going to be installed. I have to do that. And let's see, what else do I have? Yes, anti-theft mount with a lock and key for the Garmin itself. And see, there's the anti-theft kit. There's my quad lock headless charger that has to be installed. I have the Harley-Davidson auxiliary lights to be installed. And yep, that's both of these. There's the kit, and there's that. I also have, it's been too cold to work down here, so as you can see, I'm backed up. Some of the stuff I bought back in October and just been accumulating. I haven't really been down here in a couple months. So this is another part that I purchased. It is auxiliary electrical connector access or wiring harness. Not made specifically for the Pan America. It's made for other Harley-Davidson touring bikes, but the plug in this does fit into the auxiliary plug on here under the seat. And what that's going to be used for is power from the quad lock and power for the Garmin will be routed down underneath the fuel tank and back into the auxiliary harness here. Also will be plugged into the auxiliary harness is the auxiliary headlights Harley-Davidson that will be installed here. I was going to do this myself. The tank has to be removed, which does it for the air filter anyways. But I'll readily admit, I paid for all my maintenance up front, or the regular service interval maintenance for the bike. That's already been paid up front when I purchased the motorcycle. So all that maintenance, that part of it, while it's under warranty, is going to be covered by Harley-Davidson. It's already paid for. I've looked it up. I know how to do it intellectually. I haven't done it yet, removing the tank, but either way, it's a pain in the butt. It is a pain in the butt. If I don't have to do it, I won't. I'll save that nightmare for down the road. That nightmare, I'll call it a major inconvenience. So, with that being said, I'm going to have my service department just go ahead and install the wiring for the Garmin, the quad lock, and do the installation on the lights itself. I just got to pay their labor rate. It's like $150 an hour or something like that. Figured it should be no more than 3 hours at the very most. To me, it's worth the money and less the hassle. And like I said, with work and everything, I just haven't had time. I haven't even been down here. I've just been buying stuff and staging it on the tables forever. But that's really about it for upgrades. Other planned upgrades, which isn't really many. It's going to be, I will do the upgraded K&N or it's made by K&N, but it's Screaming Eagle kit, whatever. Air filter. I'll throw that in there to replace the stock paper filter. I don't think I'm going to replace the mirrors on this. A lot of people complained about the windshield, whatnot. It is a little wiggly, but in my limited riding of 400 miles so far, I haven't had an issue with it. It seems okay. The seat so far seems okay. Granted, I haven't done hundreds of miles yet. I plan to do so once the weather warms up a little bit. And speaking of what's coming up, so as you may have saw, there's a lot of gauge-wise sitting all over the place and stuff all over the table and just kind of everywhere, minus the equipment to be installed pile for the most part. That's all gear, camping gear and electronic gear and things of that nature, which I'll get into a separate video shortly on that. Essentially, one of the main reasons why I bought this bike to give myself time to prepare. For me personally, my probably biggest lifetime trip will be my trip to Alaska. I'd love to do South America and Europe and Africa and all over the world, but as you can see, there's a bit of gray going on around here. I'm not getting any younger, and with time and work and everything else, not going to happen. So what I am going to do is, as planned, 2028, June 23rd to be exact, as it's planned right now, is the Alaska 2028 trip. It's a 40-day round trip, motorcycle trip from here up to Douglasville, Georgia, Atlanta, going up to Dead Horse, Alaska, I'll be riding from here to Minnesota, going across North Dakota into Montana. Some of that's for train stuff, of course. Could spend some time in Essex Mountain, Montana. Gonna ride around Glacier National Park, to get a day riding doing that. And then from there, I rolled north into Canada, up to Dawson Creek, Mile Zero, the Alaska Highway. Take that up to Fairbanks, spend 2 days in Fairbanks, 1 day to get new tires and get the bike serviced and ready to go from Fairbanks to Dead Horse. And then, so from Fairbanks, I'll roll up to Coldfoot, camp at campground near there. Not going to camp not planning on camping at Coldfoot itself, just too much traffic and whatnot, and I didn't want to do the motel. I'll deal with the mosquitoes. I got mosquito net and hat, and I'm used to bathing in DEET, former military, right? Then go from Coldfoot up to Dead Horse, then reverse Dead Horse. Obviously, I'll be staying at one of the hotels up there and pay their ransom for that. Then from Dead Horse back down to Coldfoot, then back to Fairbanks to Anchorage. In Anchorage, my wife and son will be flying up from Atlanta. We'll have a week family vacation up in Anchorage. Once that's done, I'll resume my trip and then ride down south through British Columbia, get the bike serviced again in Kamloops, British Columbia. Yeah, so I'll be a 2-day stay there. And then from there, I'll roll into the U.S., meander around a little bit to include parts of Idaho, Washington State, Idaho, and then rolling south on the $1 Million Highway to Colorado, down through Albuquerque. And then once I get to Albuquerque, New Mexico, then it's pretty much a slab interstate the rest of the way home on I-40/I-20. So that part of the trip will pretty much be done at that point. But that'll be it. So in preparation for that trip, I wanted to kind of start getting, acquiring all my camping gear, luggage, figuring out how this bike's going to be loaded and what. So I guess I'll get into that here shortly. But so with that is, my many times canceled and revised, and I was going to do it after Alaska, but I now moved it up, is I'm going to do my Florida Loop trip as a mini precursor loadout testing of the bike and loadout and whatnot. So basically I'm going to configure the bike and load it out very, very similar to what I'll be doing for Alaska. So there'll be some stuff on here that's overkill for Florida for sure. But I just want to get a feel for it and see how it feels and whatnot. As far as like make sure my luggage, my packing, if I got to revise my packing, if there's anything I need to omit, add, hopefully not add because there's a lot of crap here, and that sort of thing. So that'll be happening here in April 2026. So I'll be Florida Loop 2026. I'll pull some stuff on the blog about that, which I haven't done because it's blogging, it's work. So I'll do that, and then maybe later on this summer, well, definitely late this summer / early fall, I would like to do some more trips over to up to North Carolina and Tennessee, up in the mountains there. I plan to do some more riding over in Alabama, and I plan to do some gravel riding here locally, get myself a little more comfortable with this bike on gravel and whatnot. Again, my plans for this bike, while it's capable, the machine itself is capable much more than the rider is capable of. I've done 1% dirt riding in my riding experience. I have ridden dirt bikes, but that was last time I did that was 20 years ago. Or I was 20 years old. That's more than 20 years ago. So it's been a long time. All my riding experience is pretty much pavement and street with some gravel. And even when I was doing the gravel on Dexter, I was nervous and pucker factor was high, and I was all worried about the bike and the belt and rocks and all that kind of stuff. Again, that machine was probably more capable than what I was comfortable doing, but this bike is definitely capable of it. Now I just got to get myself a little bit more capable. That being said, I'm not planning on doing anything crazy. I don't have that skill set or skill level at this point. I just want to do some gravel roads and maybe some fire roads, be able to handle some of those type of conditions. And yes, I have this bike set up for a little bit more aggressive adventure riding, but that's in the event if I do drop it, especially on the Dalton Highway. If it's rainy or whatnot, that can be pretty treacherous. I also plan on doing Telegraph Creek in British Columbia, Canada. That one's going to be weather permitting. That road can be absolutely gnarly when it's raining. There's 20% mountain grades in that, on switchbacks, on gravel, And the gravel there is what I've read. Obviously, I've never been there. What I've read and what I've seen online is you got the small gravel. It's almost like marbles, and it goes on a hardback clay surface, and it's kind of like riding on marbles a little bit. What I've read and what I've seen. So there are some challenges involved with that. The last time I rode Dexter on a trip was the Tail of the Dragon, in which I was fine with that. Took that real slow, and then rode a bunch of the roads in Tennessee and North Carolina. We'll be doing some videos on that shortly. I did that in September of last year, 2025. And on the way back from that, I wanted to go up Bell Mountain in North Georgia, just south of the North Carolina border. And I did drop the bike on that. It was a user error. It was my fault completely, being an idiot. I was going too slow. And, the bike was pretty well loaded. The bike's heavy, even when it's not. That bike is about 1,000 pounds when it wasn't gear loaded. And then I'm at least 100 pounds, give or take, another 2. I'm about 300. I vary between 260 and 280, depending on how much I'm eating and how lazy I'm being. There was a switchback as a 20%, about 21% grade at that particular spot. That is the maximum grade on the road. I forgot the name of the road. It's Patch something, Sand Patch, or I forget the name. It's Bell Mountain. It's a little tiny road that goes up to Bell Mountain, Georgia there. It's the highest elevation point in Georgia. And the road averages about 12 to 15% grade, which was interesting. Then you get to 20 and then 21% portions, and one of those is right on a switchback. It is paved, but I was going up, and I went to turn on the switchback. I was going too slow. The bike started stalling, and like an idiot, I hit the gas, but that bike was older. It was the '88 engine. I should have been gunning it. I should have been going faster and giving a lot more gas to begin with. I didn't. The bike started to stall out, and then instinct, habit, I went to feather the clutch as it was starting to stall. And of course, on that grade with a heavy load, with me on it and the bike being heavy, instantly the bike just stopped and wanted to go backwards. And I, of course, just slammed into brakes. You had to engage the clutch fully. I'm just sitting there, kind of panicked with the bike sitting at this ridiculous grade with all this weight. So then I attempted to just rev up the engine, feather out the clutch, let up the brake, and I just couldn't get it going. And the bike started rolling backwards again. At that point, I rolled off, fell off the bike, dropped the bike, fell off to the right. I had my Helite vest on. Of course, that went off. And it was just like, the biggest thing with that, the only injury I had with that really was my ego and pride. The bike, it did, sustain an injury. So it dropped right, hard on the right. And it hit, not the same bike, of course, because that bike's gone now. But Dexter landed right here, snapped off the brake lever, and it didn't break it off where I had vice grips with me, but there was not even enough. It was just a snub inside the assembly. On Dexter, that assembly was larger, about like this, and it snapped off right at the base of the assembly. There was nothing to even put pliers or anything onto. I had several other young riders in a car full of 20-something kids. I call them kids. They're not kids. Young adults. They stopped to help me, and it took like 6 of us to pick up that bike and move it on that grade. It was just absolutely insane. But I ended up getting a tow back home. And I was able to range and get a tow set up. I think it was a couple $100 or something like that. It wasn't terribly expensive, but it wasn't cheap either. It's about 130 miles, tow. And yeah, partly because of that experience, I want to make sure I have this bike decked out to the best protection I possibly can. Give me options as my riding skills improve. I'll take it a little bit more and more adventurous type places. If money permits on time schedules at some point in the future, I'd like to get myself some kind of a dual sport, maybe a Honda CRF rally, 300L rally or something like that, just to complement this bike. I don't live real close to trails, so I need something I can go, not necessarily freeway, but at least highway and do that. But you know, there's lots of other projects that we want to do. We want to get a Can-Am Spider for the missus. Got to get a shed, and some things we want to do around here. So we'll see. That may or may not happen. I may just stick with this and develop my skills slowly in this. But yeah, there's definitely some, you know, off-road riding I would like to do, like in North Georgia and Tennessee, that I'm not comfortable with my skill set to take this bike there at this point. So I'm pretty much sticking with gravel roads. Some really, you know, I'll take it on some fire roads if they're not too gnarly, things like that. But anything that's deep or mucky or no Jeep tracks, definitely no 2-track, absolutely not. It's too big, too heavy for, you know, for my skill set especially. But yeah, it's mainly going to be gravel roads for the most part, which they call that off-road. To me, it's like it's still a road, but it's just not paved. And this bike can definitely handle that. So this is getting on 25 minutes. This is probably long enough. This is turning into a ramble. So I'll stop this one and I'll do a separate video on gear. Have a good one.